The biggest problem with Warrior Job at the moment is that the class emphasizes on self-healing via damage output, means that it is a main tank that lacks some of the defensive abilities that its closest rival enjoys. What? What? It lacks defensives? Final Fantasy Endwalker. Every class ranked worst to best. This is by Den of Geek. A friend linked it to me and I clicked on it and I scrolled down a little bit and was like, oh fuck, I gotta make sure I read this on stream. So I've only seen like the first 2 names. I haven't read anything. While many Final Fantasy XIV players have spent most of the time since Endwalker's release staring at a Q screen, you will eventually get the chance to actually play this incredible expansion, which means that you're probably going to want to know a little about the best classes in the game. To be clear, Final Fantasy XIV has always excelled at the often tricky art of class balancing, and that trend continues in Endwalker. We will talk about one FF14 class being better than another. We're often talking about degrees of differences. More often than not, the best 14 class is still the one that you feel most comfortable with and have the most interest in playing. Oh man, it's almost like they're fucking parroting what I've been saying for years. Having all that said, here's a rough overview of where the game's various jobs currently stand. Final Fantasy's Endwalker, best tanking classes ranked. Alright, Dark Knight. While the effectiveness of Dark Knight's self-mitigation abilities is undeniable, the class is arguably the perfect example of a job that moves backward, at least slightly, by the virtue of standing still. Does that mean that it didn't get a lot of changes? Why didn't they just say the class didn't change very much? The 14 team seemingly felt like Dark Knight was in a pretty good spot heading into Endwalker and didn't do a lot to buff, nerf, or change them. Ooh. I don't want to be that guy that nitpicks, but the buff is wrong. They nerfed portions of their playstyle, which is very unfun now, or changed them. For the most part, Dark Knight stayed the same, for the most part. While Dark Knights may no longer be one of the most exciting tanking options in Final Fantasy XIV, okay, first off, no, Dark Knight is the most exciting. You know why? You know why Dark Knight is the most exciting? Because it does the most damage. It doesn't matter how much survivability, it doesn't matter how clunky it is to play. It doesn't matter how awful, how god shit it is to play or designed. None of that matters. The only thing that matters when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV players, because every Final Fantasy XIV player has a 1-inch penis, the only thing that matters is damage. So it is the most exciting tanking option currently, because I can guarantee you that if someone is like, hey, what's the best tank? Dark Knight. Why? Does the most damage. That's what everybody says. So anyway, their mitigation and burst damage abilities still make them one of the more accessible tanking options in the game. Are we gonna nitpick? I just don't think that damage abilities has anything to do with tanking. More accessible? This statement is really stupid to me. Maybe I just don't understand it. I'm really stupid, so maybe they're 5-heading me right now. Anyway, Dark Knights are capable of doing some pretty crazy stuff, assuming that you learn to master the somewhat strange timing of their key abilities. Okay, all right. First off, this sentence here, Dark Knights are capable of doing some pretty crazy stuff. Okay, well, you can't just say crazy stuff and then not give a fucking example. What do you mean crazy stuff? What type of crazy stuff? Do you mean not heal themselves? Because that's pretty fucking crazy. Do you mean die to living dead? Yeah, that's pretty fucking crazy. I would say that's insane. So, I mean, you need to give an example here. Assuming that you learn to master the somewhat strange timings of their key abilities. Okay, what strange timing? Are they talking about Salted Earth? Are they talking about you need to master the 92nd? They're talking about 5 GCD blood weapon. I don't know. I think that's just a get good. Actually, no, that's just a blood weapon sucks because you can be a master at the fucking job and still fucking miss it because it's just a god-awful ability. How many of you guys in chat play Dark Knight more than any other job, but still occasionally miss a fucking blood weapon proc because the game is shit? Because I do. I do. Occasionally I'll miss one. So Dark Knight is the last. I kind of like the letter system better. You know what I mean? Like in the last article we went over, they did it by letter. So I guess Dark Knight would be like a D. You know, D for Dark Knight, I guess. D. Why is Dark Knight last? So let's look at it real quick. Dark Knight's last because it didn't get any buffs. It didn't really change any. And because of blood weapon. They kind of like stumbled and tripped themselves into a good ranking for Dark Knight. However, we all know that how good a tank is depends on its damage, because that's all people care about in the beautiful world of Final Fantasy XIV. It does not matter how shit it is to play. It does not matter how shit its cooldowns are. If it does good damage, it's a good tank. Okay. All right, let's see. Warrior. Okay. Warriors have long been favored. Their relatively simple playstyle, self-healing capabilities, and absurd damage output. Ooh. Ooh. I wish that was true. Oh, I wish that was true, man. Why can't this be true? At least for tanks. And Endwalker certainly leans into the latter two attributes while making the class only slightly more complicated to play and master. I don't know. Is Warrior harder? I think it just saw a lot of quality of life. Like in a release being on a minute, it having stacks. Primal Rend can be used as a gap closer. You also keep your Primal Rend proc for like 30 seconds. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. And here's why. I think that they're barely right. I don't think they know why they're right. Maybe they do. Whenever I read these, I always have such low expectations, so please forgive me. But the self-healing capability, it did get a little more tricky because of bloodwetting. You need to time your bloodwetting properly. It's not a lot more tricky, but they did say slightly. So I don't know. I can agree to this for a well, okay, except for this absurd damage output. Holy fuck, man. Please, I want this to be true. Why do you have to say this? Because Yoshi P is gonna read this article and he's like, okay, well, this fucking guy thinks that warriors have absurd damage, so we're not gonna buff. Matter of fact, we're gonna nerf. So you know what? Fuck you, man. Why the fuck would you put absurd damage output on the warrior section of this? Are you fucking dumb? So you know what? No, I don't agree with this at all. Actually, I agree with it a little bit. I do think the self-healing capability did get a little bit harder. The biggest problem with warrior job at the moment is that the class emphasizes on self-healing via damage output, means that it is a main tank that lacks some of the defensive abilities that its closest rival enjoys. What? What? It lacks defensives? Warrior is so fucking tanky. Are you kidding me? Okay, anyway, that said, it's still a fantastic choice for groups who want their tank to be able to take care of themselves while dealing in What? That lacks some of defensive abilities that its closest rival enjoys. And then the very next sentence, you're praising it for being able to take care of themselves while dealing impressive damage? Okay, I don't believe that this guy played warrior. They might mean raid-wide mitts, but why would they mean raid-wide mitts? Shake got buffed. There's no way they meant that. Also, if you're gonna get technical with like utility and raid-wide shit, a warrior can fucking heal a DPS's entire HP pool. Healing isn't defensive, duh, silly strummer. All right, so warrior is 3 because it has an absurd damage output and it's slightly more complicated to play and master, but it's also a 3 because it lacks defensive abilities, but on the same hand, it can also take care of themselves and kind of doesn't need a healer. All right, so that's why it's a 3. All right, Gunbreakers were one of Shadowbringer's most popular additions, and this unique class remains the best overall off-tank option in the game. You could argue that Gunbreaker does want to be an off-tank because honestly, I don't really like the changes that they made to this job. I think that it's very annoying to try to use defensives and tank the boss on this job. I think it's really fucking obnoxious, I do. However, I don't think that that's what they think. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a main tank Gunbreaker, right? So whenever I tank on Gunbreaker, I kind of don't want to be tanking because whenever you tank, you have responsibilities like moving the boss and popping defensive cooldowns. And those tanking responsibilities get in the way of my rotation, and I don't want to fucking do my job, so I'll just let this other fucking guy tank so I can just be a monkey and hit all my fucking off GCDs. So I can kind of see that. What the Gunbreaker job lacks in pure tanking abilities, it more than makes up for with its versatility. Okay, Gunbreaker tanking wise is actually amazing. Gunbreaker is extremely tanky. They got a second charge of Aurora. They got Bowlight buff for some fucking reason, so now Bowlight is literally hollowed ground but better. It's on a minute less cooldown, and it got Heart of Corundum, which is absolutely absurd. So Gunbreaker tanking wise would be the only reason why I'd play it, because I don't really favor the DPS rotation. It's extremely clunky. It feels like shit to play for me. I understand some people like it. That's fine. There's Gunbreaker simps. I simp for warrior. It's fine. But the rotation is clunky. It's forced, and the burst window doesn't even fucking cover the entire burst. So the job is currently broken right now. You cannot argue the job is not broken. It is broken. It wasn't played play tested. If you're arguing that, then you actually don't know what fixed is and you don't know what broken is. So shut the fuck up. So anyway, so this is just flat out wrong because Gunbreaker tanking wise is absolutely amazing. Not only does the Gunbreaker class usually have a solution or contribution to most situations, but the FF14 team was nice enough to simplify some of the job's most complicated mechanics and make one of the most exciting overall tanking options just a little more appealing. What do they mean by versatility? Because I don't think they know what versatility means. Let's see. Ability to adapt or be adapted to many different functions or activities. Okay, well, I can tell you that Gunbreaker is sure as fuck not versatile, okay? Let me tell you this, brother, okay? When I'm in my ammo combo, you will get nothing out of me except for my ammo combo, okay? When I'm in my burst window, my shitty burst window that No Mercy doesn't actually cover the whole fucking thing, you will get nothing from me except for my damage. So that is not versatile. If you think that I'm choosing a defensive cooldown over a continuation, you are out of your fucking mind. The other tank better use their defensive on me. The healers better fucking adjust, and the fucking DPS better use their feign and the whatever the other one is, because I ain't doing shit. We all understand that, right? And I'm not gonna shirk you either. I'm just gonna turn my tank stance off because I ain't got time to shirk. I'm too busy pegging on my fucking keyboard and doing my ammo combo. So no, it's not versatile at all. It's very forced and it's very restrictive. So Gunbreaker's a 2 because it sucks in tanking, but it's versatile, and because Gnashing Fang is all one button. Okay, here we go, boys. Paladin. Many fans suspected that Paladins were going to get a lot of love in Endwalker, but even the most optimistic projections for this job's potential have arguably undersold how good it really is. I agree to that to a certain extent. I think that Oath Gauge starting at full at the start of the fight is awesome. Holy Sheltron got super good. Wreck got better. Atonement got better. Well, your Sword Oath stacks got better. Yeah, I can agree to that to a certain extent. While it's true that Paladins aren't the most exciting solo tank option. Okay, first off here, what the fuck? Second off, the other idiot in the other article said the same thing. Why is there this big misconception that Paladins are not exciting to solo tank? Like leveling? Or do they mean like solo tank a raid? Because solo tank a raid where you need 2 tanks, it's pretty fucking interesting considering you have to actually use cover, which you don't fucking use at all, ever. Well, okay, very rarely. But why do articles keep saying this? That Paladins aren't the most exciting solo tank. Like, oh, they're bad. You always want to have a buddy. Why does if anything, dude, Paladins don't need anybody to help them. They can heal themselves. They can DPS. They're a tank. Flashy is what they mean? I don't think so. I don't know, but that's the thing. Does anybody really know what this means? Let's see. While it's true the Paladins aren't the most exciting solo tank option in the game due to their slightly more complicated kit and somewhat reduced damage capabilities, their defensive skills are simply absurd. Paladin's good defensively, but it's still like the 3rd or 4th squishiest tank. It's still not that fucking defensive. I mean, yeah, Holy Sheltron's great, but you're still down 1 CD. You're still missing 1 personal. So they're not the most exciting because of a slightly more complicated kit. Wouldn't a more complicated kit make them more exciting to play, make them more interesting? So I think these two things conflict, and somewhat reduced damage capabilities. Yeah, they're doing a little less in raid, but as far as like a solo type of thing, no, it's fine. Their defensive skills are simply absurd. I wouldn't say this. How can you say Paladin's skills are simply absurd, but then you say Warrior is lacking defensive options? Like, what the fuck? Are we playing the same game? Are you even in Endwalker? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Dude, this is ridiculous. How do you say Warrior and Gunbreaker are squishy, but then you say Paladin is super tanky? Yo, just because it has the shield. This person didn't play the game. Paladins embody the entire tanking concept. With their incredible ability to eat ridiculous amounts of damage while protecting nearby party members from sudden attacks. When it comes to main tanks, it's pretty much Paladins and everything else. Oh, sorry, I need a second. Okay. All right. Okay. Woo! Sheesh! Alright, so Paladin's number 1, because when it comes to main tanks, it's pretty much Paladin and everything else.